Hello and welcome back to Biblical Reality Check. In our last episode, we watched Moses move from exile to emergence, standing before a bush that burns without being consumed and hearing a voice that doesn't just speak to him, but activates him. That encounter lifts him out of the vibration of fear and into the frequency of purpose. By aligning himself with I am that I am, Moses steps into a reality where identity is not inherited, but chosen, where a fugitive becomes a liberator and a man becomes a conduit for the infinite. Today, we're going to explore why those 5 words carry such extraordinary power, not as poetry, not as metaphor, but as the operating system of reality itself. When Moses asks the voice within the bush who he should say sent him, the voice that comes from the bush isn't being poetic when it replies, "Say I am that I am sent you." No doubt, Moses was expecting a name of some kind, and instead, he gets the voice of God revealing itself as the syntax of existence itself, the operating system behind reality. Let's examine how this is so. But first, a crash course in how a mathematical function may be recursively defined in terms of itself. Don't worry, we won't get into the weeds of programming. However, understanding how recursion works will give us insight into God's linguistic use of recursion in identifying itself to Moses. Recursion is when something refers back to itself in order to define or process itself. In programming, it involves breaking down a complex problem into smaller subproblems. Each time the function calls itself, it works on a smaller subset of the original problem until a base case is reached, allowing the recursion to terminate. A classic and simple example of recursion in computer programming is the factorial function, where factorial, n, is defined as n times factorial, n minus 1. To find the factorial of 5, you reference the function itself to find the factorial of 4, which in turn references the factorial of 3, and so on, until the base case of factorial, 0, is reached. Now, if you are anything like me, 0 factorial seems like it should equal 0. Therefore, I went to a brain far greater than mine to explain it to me in a way that makes sense. And boy, did it deliver, explaining it like this. Factorials count arrangements, ways something can be ordered, structured, or expressed. But when you have 0 things, there is no form, no sequence, no arrangement, and no this, then that. And yet, in terms of reality, there is still existence. There is still being, the void that acts as the canvas of creation, the empty foundation from which all form emerges. Mathematically, that foundational state, the state before form, before sequence, before identity, is represented as 1, not 0. Why? Because 1 means there is something. 0 means there is nothing. And the universe never begins from nothing. It begins from being. So in symbolic terms, 0 equals the state of pure being. 1 equals the recognition that being exists. It's the same logic as I am. Before Moses becomes anything, leader, liberator, prophet, he simply is. Before creation takes shape, being already is. Before identity branches into labels, roles, or stories, existence already is. So the factorial function encodes a metaphysical truth. Even when there is nothing, there is still the one. Even when there is no form, there is still being. Even when there is no arrangement, there is still I am. Mathematics calls it 1. God calls it I am. I know I got a little off track there, but I felt like that needed further elaboration. So, moving on. As our factorial example shows, recursion is all about self-reference. When God says, I am that I am, it's a linguistic recursion without a base case. A self-referential loop that never resolves into a finite definition. In programming terms, it's like a function that calls itself indefinitely. I underscore am, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, equals I underscore am, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. There's no external referent, no grounding noun, no predicate to pin it down. It's defining itself as pure being, pure awareness, pure presence, a declaration of identity that refuses containment. Having no base case is significant because it implies infinity, and God is therefore not defined by time, form, or condition. Having no base case also implies unknowability because it resists categorization. You can't say God is X or Y because the name itself loops back into itself. And lastly, it implies sovereignty because the statement asserts that God is not derived from anything else. There is no because, no from, no under. It just is. God is. When God says, I am that I am, it isn't giving Moses a name. It's revealing that it is existence itself. The self-sustaining reality that needs no definition, no source, no permission. And if the foundation of reality simply is, then everything within it, including Moses, also is by that same principle. His identity isn't a fixed label. It's a construct, shaped rather than absolute. And because it's a construct, it can be rewritten, just like code. For Moses, this revelation is an abstract philosophy. It's empowerment. If the source of reality defines itself by itself, then anything that arises from that source carries that same self-existing foundation. Moses is not the source, but he is rooted in it. His identity isn't limited to the labels of shepherd, fugitive, or outsider. Those are roles, not essence. His essence is being, an awareness grounded in the same self-sustaining reality that spoke from the bush. And once he recognizes that, he realizes his identity is not fixed but flexible, a construct that can be rewritten. His mission then becomes helping the Israelites rewrite their own code from a mindset of slave to a mindset aligned with I am that I am. Now let's take this knowledge and circle back to where we have both Moses and Eve standing before trees. Moses by a burning bush, and Eve by the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The voice in the burning bush tells Moses, I am that I am, a recursive vibration that underlies all creation. As Nikola Tesla believed with his idea that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. Moses matches that vibration when he accepts his assignment to free IAM's people from their suffering. Adam and Eve are also aligned with that vibration until Eve's encounter with the snake, who tells her if she eats the fruit, she will be like God. Unlike Moses, who matches his frequency to I am, Eve loses her frequency to I am when she accepts what the serpent tells her. The serpent says, you could be like God when Eve already is. One is recursion. The other is projection. Eve's choice isn't disobedience. It's ontological relocation. She shifts from being to becoming, from divine recursion to material projection. The fall is a shift in identity. I am is pure presence, unconditioned, eternal, self-sufficient. I want to be like I am introduces lack, comparison, and striving. It implies, I am not enough. By reaching for the fruit, Eve exits the recursive loop of divine being and enters the causal chain of material existence, where identity is shaped by time, form, and separation. In wanting to be like God, Eve creates the illusion of distance between herself and source. That illusion introduces lack and birth's duality. Good and evil, naked and clothed, shame and grace. The material world then becomes the stage for remembering what was never lost. The I am. I am that I am is a self-referential loop, infinite recursion of being. It continues endlessly until it's seen for what it is, a loop. The moment that recognition occurs, the illusion of separation dissolves. Eve reaches for the fruit in an attempt to become like God, unaware that she already is. That act creates the illusion of lack and distance. But integration happens when she realizes the truth. I am. Not someday, not through effort, but already. If you want to dissolve the illusion for yourself, remember this. You are not defined by circumstance, titles, your past, or the stories others project onto you. You are defined by one truth. You are. Existence itself is your foundation. So today, declare I am and allow that to be enough. Thanks for watching.